Hey everybody, this is Richard Stitch Thomas of the bands Ventana and Mushroomhead, and you are listening to Only in One Take Radio.
You are listening to Only in One Take Radio with Stitch from Ventana and Mushroomhead. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic, man. You are currently on tour with several of your bands that you've been performing with over the years. Is there anything that you would like to share for people who are still in the dark that haven't checked it out yet? What are you currently touring at this moment?
I'm a day off here in Illinois. We got Bloomington, Illinois tomorrow at the Castle Theater. This whole thing that I'm out doing right now, it kind of just came out of nowhere. Waylon, the former singer of Mushroomhead, he has another band called A Killer's Confession, and he's been out touring for the last few years. Recently, him and J-Man, the other former singer of Mushroomhead, one of the original Mushroomhead singers, they did a show together, and just for fun, they did a couple songs, and it got a lot of people hyped up. Venues popped up, I guess, with interest, saying, "Hey, we're interested in having that too." So, not that it's trying to be like a second Mushroomhead or anything. It's mainly his band on tour, but like the night closes with a few of us up there jamming like 6-7 Mushroomhead songs, and it's just kind of just a tribute to the world we came from. It's not a competition. It's not something we're launching as a band or anything. It's just something for fun. And again, like remembering, the times that we had in that band, because for all of us, it was a great experience being in Mushroomhead. Just a lot of us have other things going on now, and just things change over the years. Like I said, it's not like a competitive thing. It's just a bunch of us just getting together and having fun. The fans are digging it because it's reminding them a little bit of how the lineup was 15 years ago. This is just like 2 weeks long or something like that. I'm just wrapping up the last 6 dates here. And then my other band, Ventana, we played yesterday at the Fort Wayne show, and it's just kind of us all just getting our side bands that we do together. I guess they're not even side bands anymore. I guess you consider them our main bands because we're not in Mushroomhead mainly anymore. So, yeah, out pushing our products and just, having fun, reliving the old days.
Now, a lot of other bands are also coming back that have been, not exactly in circulation over the course of the years. You got Mudvay's came back. You got Cold Chamber that's currently touring together again.
Yeah.
And you got Twisted Sister that's doing reunion tours, and all these other bands are doing the same thing. Do you feel that it's kind of necessary to revisit from where you start? I mean, even Korn has celebrated their 30th anniversary for the first record of theirs, and they're touring off of that. Do you think it's really best for a band to always stay true to where they started, to their roots, not just consistently just do album tour, but they need to go back and kind of remind themselves what they were doing this for?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what kind of band you are and how you've advanced. Because I mean, on one hand, some of those bands have advanced to have records even bigger than the ones they had when they started originally. I mean, I don't really know how to answer that because I guess it's all different for every band depending on what they're doing. But I prefer when bands go out and do more of their original material. Like I've seen bands like KMFDM, one of my favorite bands growing up on tour, and I saw them come through Cleveland, recently, and the set list was just horrible. Like they played like none of the classics you wanted to hear, and it's like, your fans in the crowd are mostly my age and want to hear those songs, and then they don't play them, so that kind of bums you out, and you're just like, well, I don't know if I really want to go see that band anymore. And they were doing an anniversary tour too, and you would think that they would do more throwbacks, but they were mostly playing new material, so it was like kind of weird. But yeah, I prefer when the bands play the classics. Even like seeing Korn, it's like I want to hear that first record. That was my favorite one. I like all the Korn records, but that first one, when I heard it the first time when I was 15, it's a life-changing kind of album. And they paved a lot of the ways for other bands in the new metal genre to do what they did.
Do you feel that stylizing a band's, regardless if it's a side band or your main band or whichever it is, that you feel like the stylization of today's music is kind of a double-edged sword? Like, people want to hear what you originally sounded like, but evolving is a really hard thing to balance. Like, you want to stay true to your sound, but at the same time you want to branch it out. But there are bands out there who are sticking to the same sound isn't really moving past, let's say, the first record that became the number one hit? Do you feel bands are becoming
Yeah.
too reliant on their own sound and just to get by to make the money they need that they probably lost in the past of other records?
I mean, I don't really know. That's a tough, confusing one too to really answer because I mean, I'm not sure. These are interesting questions. Because again, it depends on the band. Because if you're on a major label and you're having to do songs in that realm, you have to kind of play the game of chasing that song that's going to be popular on the radio. And no one wants to hear the same song over and over and over again being rewritten. So the evolution is important, but then sometimes bands evolve in the record, and you're like, well, this isn't the sound I'm used to. So I mean, I agree, it is a full double-edged sword, and you're damned either way because no matter what you do, the internet's gonna trash you for it. There's gonna be people that say it sucks, or people that say it's good, or it's like whatever. And, you can't appease everybody. You never will. But if you just continuously write the same song over and over again, it's like kind of limits you and makes you kind of boring as an artist. You're supposed to be more unpredictable and kind of throw, curveballs. Like my other band, Ventana, it's more industrial metal, but I keep saying, like, it'd be really funny to put out an industrial country record, like, and just throw people off and just do something silly, and it'll be my luck that'll be something that winds up taking off, and I'll hate it, not because I have to go play it.
Oh, absolutely. And over the years, like from let's say tour and album, how do you like balance where the money, especially the money, like sometimes the money has to be either kind of bargain to where you're going to put it at or put it into like investment wise, touring new music, and what should the bands or even yourself, what would you mostly need to invest in just to stay afloat? Like because touring and then is just as expensive as just creating a new album.
Yeah, I mean, even more, because then you got, depending how big your band is, and if you got a crew, if you got a sound guy, if you're, blow out a tire, if transmission goes on your van, like, it's so expensive to tour. I think it's cheaper to make a record. And then it's unpredictable knowing, okay, is the show going to do good? Is the crowd going to show up? Is the venue going to pay us? And the biggest thing, to me, investing in is just, yourselves. It's like when you get that money, it's like buy the better gear, buy the shit that make your, life easier, buying, get a, reliable vehicle, things like that. Cause it's really tough because you want to pay yourself, it's like, oh, we got this money left over. We should, split it up so we get, paid. But then you're like, okay, but then if we do that, then we need all this gear. We just got to pay for it anyway. So what's the difference, So allowing the band to pay for itself and fund itself is key. Just because you're making that investment in your future at that point. Because I don't know how many times we bought in like crappy van just because we didn't save. We could have played like 10 shows and not paid ourselves and bought like a better vehicle, but no, we just split up the money and then we're stuck with this piece of shit van that breaks down every tour, and then you cancel shows and you're losing money. It becomes a whole thing. So definitely investing in your brand and your product, and paying for ads and things like that. Because nowadays the independent artists can take control of themselves so much if they get into the ad game, and promoting themselves. Because nowadays labels really don't do much for artists. Unless you're like, already top banana band,
Does that also affect a band if they were to try to get investments into, let's say, other sponsorships or, let's say, instrument brands? It doesn't have to be the top brands per se. Do you think that would also possibly even hurt you more if you try to take a risk on even on just that? Let's say you are a let's say a level 2 band, like, oh, you got recognition, you got people hearing things, but trying to get some kind of a brand to kind of be, lift you up a little bit to continue touring. Do you think today that's a little easier, or do you think that that's just as hard if you're not a top brand label from a label?
It's harder now. Like years and years and years ago, it seemed like you could get sponsorships a lot easier. But then like a lot of these, places or companies, they'll sponsor, all these bands, and half the bands they wind up sponsoring, giving free stuff to, don't amount to anything, or they don't go anywhere, or they break up 6 months later. It's like these companies are giving away, all this stuff. So those, things have definitely gotten tighter. So it's a lot harder to get, like you said, those sponsorships unless you are a bigger band and stuff like that. But most guitar companies and things like that, like the smaller level ones, are usually pretty good about, helping out artists and things like that. But yeah, as far as like in the corporate world, it's a little harder to get, big sponsorship. Back in the day, I remember Jägermeister was like sponsoring everything, so, and they would always be really good with tour support, but they did so many metal bands, again, they spent all this money and they don't see much return. So then those things start changing.
Bands always has, from the beginning of time, has always commonly had lineup changes, regardless of what band you are, regardless of what kind of band you are. Do you feel like the creativity from a group that either leaves, regardless of the reasons, do you feel like its unique style or even sound can also affect and change differently if one member, let's say, even returns to rejoin that band later, let's say 10 years down the line or 3 years? I mean, do you think that makes a big thing when they start creating music again?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, because it depends it depends who the main writers are. Because a lot of people don't, you see a band, you think, oh, everyone must, contribute and do their thing. But there's so many bands where 2 or 3 guys are like writing all of it, and then the rest of the band are just kind of playing it. So as long as you're not losing, the main songwriters, there usually isn't anything drastically changing. Or someone's like, oh, they lost their guitar player, or oh, they lost their, bass player or something. It's like, well, he wasn't really writing stuff anyway. And that goes for any band. I'm not talking about any of my bands in particular. But then, you could eventually, you get rid of that one person that wasn't writing or contributing, and then you get someone that can, and then all of a sudden your band's elevated. Like I know in my own band, Ventana, that's happened. It took years for me to find, good musicians to work with in that band. So it wasn't just me and one other person writing everything. And it took, getting 5 different guitar players and constantly going through the gamut of finding different artists, and then finally getting one that sticks. So you want that one to work out because they're helping carry the weight of the writing process, and understanding what the band is supposed to sound like is another, crucial thing. Because you may get, a new band member, but if they're not into the style that you're doing, then they're more than likely not going to have much to contribute.
Do you feel that today's music and today's industry, you feel that there's a fine line between employee and band member? Now, within the band, with each other, if you play with them for a long time, you get along and very, just kind of click. You consider it as a band member. But at the same time, when you're trying to branch out, brand your band, do you feel like there's some circumstances that you're an employee?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't ever look at it as a job, personally, for me. But I mean, there's, hired guns and bands all the time where they're more like, an employee to be on call for like a certain thing. But with what I do in this, thing is I have, fun with it. So I never really look at it as a job. I wish it could be more like a job because it would probably pay more. But but yeah, I don't know. Not really. I wouldn't really feel like an employee or anything like that.
What do you feel is more consistent?
If that's what you were asking, I think that's what you were asking. I was a little confused on the question, but I think that was what you asked.
What do you feel is more consistent when you're having to stay within a band or bands, or just staying creative and still having to generate income? What do you think is more consistent? Because at some point, nobody wants to really have a, quote, normal job when you're doing what you love doing. But at the same time, It's not exactly paying your bills when you're, doing this for, let's say, 5 years, and you're still not exactly staying within what you want to do, but you still have to go back to the 9 to 5 thing.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I've been, like I said, fortunate to be in Mushroomhead for as long as I was, and made decent living. It was nothing that I'm gonna, go retire off of, but enough to keep doing it and not have to have a 9 to 5 job. I think the last time I had a 9 to 5 job was 2001. Um, and just making things work, doing side gigs. I also do haunted houses. I design sets and things like that. So, um, able to find other things to do in between that. Um, so but it definitely becomes, difficult if touring doesn't happen. And that's one of the reasons why I had to exit Mushroomhead was that during COVID, all the touring stopped. We had a tour booked. There was a new album coming out. There was like all this shit lined up. And then it was, oh, that's all canceled. And then it's like, well, what are we supposed to do now? like, so, um, so that was tough. And then another year went by, no touring, and then another year went by, no touring, and then the world opened up, and venues still were a little cautious on booking too many shows, too many tours, because now the world was closed up. Every band's trying to go out on tour now to make up for all that money they lost. So Mushroomhead was kind of sitting idle for a while, and other opportunities came up during that time for me to operate and design haunted houses. So I shifted towards there, and it was a positive exiting that I had to exit Mushroomhead. So it wasn't like a negative thing. It was just, hey, there's an opportunity, and we're not doing anything, and who knows if we're ever going to do anything. So at that point, no one knew what was going to happen with the world. I'm sitting here thinking there's never going to be a live show ever again, because with everything going on with COVID and shit, no one knew what the future was going to look like there. So at that point, I wish I had a 9 to 5 job to fall back on, because at least I would have, had it figured out. And in rock and roll, there's no retirement fund, there's no 401k or anything like that. So you're forced to like kind of make your own life at that point, and you gotta just live it. So it's either you're gonna, go all in or just make it a hobby. But going all in is quite tough because you have to make it financially work. And there'll be you go out on tour and it won't make as much money as the last one because things happened or whatever, or attendances were low, or your van breaks down, or you got to do this, got to do that, and sometimes like, oh crap, there wasn't that much profit, and you lose the money. But luckily, if you have your merchandise game in order and you're a decent product, you can find other ways to make that money.
Yeah, with today's technology, when it comes to the music aspect of things, do you feel that the technology can actually devolve a band, even if they have to, just accept it and actually while they still use it, like they're forced to use it? Do you feel that they're more adaptable to it, or even yourself, or do you feel that this actually helping a little bit more than the COVID thing?
So I've been back and forth in that whole thing with the technology is helping or hurting. I've been on the side of the coin of saying that it's hurting. But lately I've kind of been able to understand how to adapt, and kind of use it in more of an old school fashion, and understanding how to use it, not relying on it, and just using it to help amplify what you're currently doing.
Do you feel like they have to rely on that on certain aspects, like every member, not just one main member or two main members? Do you feel like everybody basically has to be a businessman or businesswoman in order to keep this band out there? Because again, the crowd, the audience who either fans of your music or new to your music, they can literally, like they say, make or break you. Even today, regardless of how advanced we are and all this stuff, but there's always that judgment about whatever it is that you do when they keep an eye on you.
Sorry, you were cutting out for some of that. I'm really sorry.
Do you feel like they have to rely on some of this technology in order to stay, keep themselves from devolving their own band? Like every member needs to be a business person, a businessman, a businesswoman, regardless of how big or small they are.
Yeah, definitely it depends how much they care to begin with. But because usually, every band it's very rare that everyone in the band is helping, contributing. It's usually it's usually one or two people are taking on the workload and the business decisions and the the booking and the ideas, and it always seems like that's with no matter what band ever a part of. And then there's some of the the band that's just kind of there for the ride and there to be the person that needs to be there, but not everyone's got that business couth to make it work, and to know how to like market yourself, to know how to you know make yourself a brand and how to push it. Um, but it would definitely be beneficial if everyone was like that. But it's usually a lot easier too if just one or two people, because if you had too many people in the band trying to all run the business of it, it just get kind of clashy, and that's when you get the disagreements and the fallouts.
Now, with your experiences between in and out of bands, whether you decide to leave permanently or decide to rejoin later on, do you feel like once you leave, let's say for Mushroomhead, like they've made multiple albums that you've contributed to, do you feel like some of that business end has either kind of deteriorated, or do you feel like you have some form of control of what your work was with involved with that, despite rather how you left the band?
Don't really have much. I mean, you're referring to like Mushroomhead in particular, like, or like what are you
Between the music
meaning?
aspect, once whatever, if whatever the music that you contributed to that is actually being profited from, let's say streaming or whatever it is that might be, do you ever like keep track of like how much income that you would actually get from previous albums that you contributed to other band or bands?
I mean, no, because I mean, you get your streaming, you get all that, no matter what. But I'm not, being paid to not be in a band. But anything you contribute or write, for a band, you're paid forever for that. And that's not directly from the band. That's just through the channels, like through ASCAP or BMI, that does things like that. So every time your stuff's played on a Touch Tunes, or every time you're streamed on Spotify, you're getting your percentage. You know, so every 4 months, I still get a check from Scorpion King, or a soundtrack that we were in. So I mean, there's definitely a huge benefit to that. Even if you're not in a band anymore, you're still you know um, have the that benefit and that security of knowing, like, oh well, I'm still tied in, and it makes the work that you did put in worth it, for sure.
Do you also keep track of band members that, let's say, they contributed to one of your bands or your albums, or let's say even a song, and let's say they left, regardless of what their reasons might be? Do you still have to keep track of that one ex member that they still got to get paid regardless?
No, because again, like, you don't really. It's not you personally having to go pay that person. It's not anything like that at all. Like I said, when music's written, splits are made, percentages are kind of talked about, and then you're paid for that forever. And it's ASCAP sending out checks quarterly. If someone quits a band, that's on them. Like, the band's not going to pay them to quit. But anything they wrote or contributed to, I mean, they're paid forever. But the band's not responsible for keeping track of that. That's all in the corporate world over there with that. Like I said, with companies ASCAP and BMI, they're the ones that hunt that money down, collect it, and they distribute checks to all the artists that have registration.
Do you feel like, to stick with Ventana, do you feel like this is a more concrete band for you in the years to come? And you guys have been around for a while now in the music world, and you've established a name for yourself, and not just because of what Mushroomhead or anything, but on your own. Do you feel like this is the kind of establishment that really helps a band forward once they kind of find that niche? Like Ventana, like you mentioned, and is very industrial, a little experimental and heavy, and it may not be for everybody, but it is out there, and people will recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, Ventana has been 21 years now of doing that project, and unfortunately, it never got to, get itself off the ground as much as I wanted it to, because it's so busy with, doing Mushroomhead and doing other things that took up all the time. So, I do something cool with my band, and then lose momentum, because then there's, nonstop touring with the other band I'm in, and blah, 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 blah. So, like, Ventana always got, like, put on the back burner, but I knew it was a good product, and I knew it had a chance to, like, stand on its own. And I, write, majority of the music for that band, As to where Mushroomhead, I kind of just contributed sound effects and kind of helped, with stuff here and there, and mostly was tied in with designing merchandise and helping paint masks and help make stage props and things like that. I didn't really write too much with Mushroomhead, but with Ventana I actually get to write the music, and it's more of my style of things, where I come more from the dirty Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson kind of upbringing, and I like the music to reflect that way. But now that I'm not doing Mushroomhead anymore, now I'm reverting kind of back to going, okay, well, I have this good product sitting here that's already got a name for itself. It's already got momentum. Now I really need to kick it into high gear and push it out there and get it, out on tour. We just announced the tour in February. We're going out with Cyclone 9. I got some other, things in the works, but I'm done with saying no to opportunities, because I've been presented opportunities for years for that band, or like bands want to take us on a tour or do a show, and it's like, no, I can't because I got this other thing, or no, I can't because my singer's in this other band and he can't do it, or drummer's out doing this. It's like just losing momentum. So I had a pact with myself and the band. I was like, hey, look, I'm not saying no anymore. We got to make this work in 2025, or else we got to just put it to bed, because we're just fooling ourselves at this point. Like, all these years are going by and we're just not doing anything, and then we play a show and it's awesome, and we win over any crowd we play in front of. We sell a bunch of merch, and like, people love our music, and people are always like, oh, I never heard of you guys. Oh my God, it's the first time seeing you. It's like, been around for 21 years. Like, but that's because of just always losing that momentum, which, I'm putting an end to now, because I need to make, so I can make this band work. It can be very self-sustaining and have a, decent career doing it, because Ventana is only a 4-piece band. And that makes it a lot more affordable to tour. It makes it a lot more easier when you're having to, pay band members and things like that to go out on tour. It's a smaller overhead. So if I can make that band work, it'd be very, beneficial, for me, especially because I'm not getting any younger. And it's like trying to break your band when you're getting into your 40s is just tough,
Do you feel
the young man's game?
Do you feel it's a lot easier as far as opportunity goes? Like, a lot of bands are getting better opportunities. Like, you feel it's easier to get opportunities of today's music industry than when you first started out? It was a lot harder, or certain things were easier. But like today, do you think that it's a little smoother, or do you feel like you still have to be more against the grind, or be more aware that those opportunities may not be, either the best, or they may fade away quicker than before you even accept it?
It's a lot tougher nowadays, I feel, especially when you get older, and it's like you start losing touch of like what it takes to like get to that level. And if you don't have management, you don't have things like that, of people to do things for you, it's definitely scary and definitely a little intimidating to continue to do this. Like, there's numerous times where I'm just like, I'm fucking done with music. There's no point. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make it work. Stores don't even carry albums anymore. It's just like, it's a whole different world. It's like, is there a point? I don't know. It's definitely a lot more, challenging, but also at the same time, there are so many ways to own it on your own and run it yourself, and you don't need a label if you can make it work. So that's where like the years and years of experience and seeing how it's been done, now applying that to my own band, is pretty awesome, because then now you have that leverage of kind of knowing, what to do and how to do it.
Go ahead and plug in any websites or to Ventana, to anything that you'd like to care to share to the audience that have yet to discover you.
Yeah, so I don't have a website. I got to get that back up and running. It's just a few years ago lost the domain, and I'm just like, I'm not even touring with this band anymore. It's like, I'm not even doing anything. Why should I bother with a website? So I got to get that back up and running. But we got the Facebook and all that stuff for just tour dates and things like that. But we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon Music, just Ventana, and other than that, I ain't got much to promote. That's just the band I'm kind of going all in with. And then in February, like I said, we're going out and doing some dates with Cyclone 9. We're going to be doing a lot more, things, coming up in the future. We're going to be doing a new record. We just signed with the booking agency, so we're definitely going to be making some things happen. But yeah, just our Facebook page for like tour dates and stuff like that. It's just the page comes up as called Ventana Official, because there's a few other things out there called Ventana, like mostly window companies, because the name itself is Spanish for window. So that name comes up a lot. So it's pretty funny. There's also a lot of apartment complexes, oddly enough, called Ventana, which is silly, but it's hard to find us sometimes on those things. But yeah, our music's all over. We got 3 albums out. I think they're good, but it's up for the listener to decide. But it's more on the, like I said, the heavier side. Lots of keyboards, lots of screaming. Definitely more in the scary music realm.
There you have it, everybody. That is Stitch from Mushroomhead and Ventana. Go check out Ventana. If you have not checked it out, you should. It's been over 21 years. And also check out Mushroomhead. If you haven't heard of these guys, you really should. And also check out Waylon and J-Man's work and their tour as well, because they're working just as hard as Stitch himself.
Yeah, and Waylon's band that he does is called A Killer's Confession. And they just put out a new record called Victim 1. It's really good, really heavy. I was actually kind of jealous of it. I heard it and I'm like, damn, this fucking record's good. So that's a good one to check out as well.